Top of the boat, watching all the other boats go by.
Oh!
Yeah. Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to episode 5 of Chelsea Fans React, the series where yet again I give it a bit more time after the game is finished and I go through some of your comments. I put out a couple of polls on Twitter, we ask a few questions as to what you guys thought about the game, and we try to gauge the general reaction from Chelsea fans. And today obviously I'm back in Amsterdam, and there's also some clips from me, Louis and Jan outside Stamford Bridge that we recorded straight after the game. I guess you could say slightly more reactionary than spending a bit more time analysing the highlights, going over what was available, what we could have done, what we didn't do, all of those things and all of those questions that we can ask ourselves. The reason for this series is to give us all a bit more time. So
the first goal that Sheffield scored back was just textbook Chelsea this season.
What is that?
It's like, no concentration. But the first minute, so that would probably be another point of a negative. Coming into the second half and immediately conceding. We did it to, I think, Mane in the Super Cup.
Yeah.
So
these are basic things.
Yeah.
These are things that like you don't even need to be working on this on the training ground. This is just like, if you're a footballer, professional footballer who's getting paid that wage, the minimum expectation of any player that goes out on the field is for the first minute of the game, ease yourself back into the half.
But Lampard will hate that though, won't he? He'll know that's a big problem, and like I said, that sort of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, where these are elements of the game that should be coached out of the side. Like I said, we can win 50-50s, there is physicality, there's intricate passing play, there's good combinations in the middle third and the final third, and there's goal scorers. So the problems should be teething issues, young coach, young side, and really the frustrations is obviously you're going to be reactionary, like you said, after the game. But if you really do take some time to digest it, then maybe it's not as bad as it feels.
It's poll time, just reminding people again, following Chelsea's draw at home to Sheffield United, how many goals will Tammy Abraham finish on this season? The majority of people actually answered with 11 to 14, and some people said 15 to 20. Only 4% believe that despite getting 4 goals in the first 4 games of the season, no one really thinks he's going to get 21 plus goals. Only 4% of people. Louis and I were having a discussion about this, and Louis was saying that it was
pinch of salt, but I'm going to bring it back to down to earth a little bit. Sheffield United and Norwich were teams that he scored against in the Championship last season. Let's see if he does it against a Leicester or Watford or teams which are stable Premier League sides. I think, look, 4 goals in 2 games is absolutely unreal. Not going to take it away from some great finishes as well. Movement, it's been superb.
Instinctive.
4 of his goals, exactly.
Yeah.
He's a goal scorer, and the hold-up play as well. I mean,
that was better today. That's a positive. Tammy's hold-up play was genuine. He was winning the ball, chesting and bringing it down. But just on the goals as well. 2 superb finishes last week. Both goals were amazing. But today was like vintage. I think it's 21, but vintage Tammy Abraham. It was his sniffer in the box, the scruffy goals, lands with him, he puts it away, and that's what we needed for Chelsea for a long time now. So
after seeing our new number 9 score a brace twice against 2 newly promoted clubs that say we're guaranteed to see a 21 plus goal season from Tammy Abraham this year, if we're sticking to this conversation about being realistic with our expectations, it's something I've seen with so many comments over the past week or so. Everyone's reminding me to be realistic, not get carried away and say we're going to win the Champions League. You guys know the drill. So I think if I'm being honest as well with myself and giving my opinion on this poll, I think 11 to 14 goals, and if we can see 15 to 20, it will be an extremely successful season for Tammy Abraham at Chelsea. So poll number 2, and this is where a massive conversation has been started. It's the centre-back pairing when we go away at Wolves. We can all agree, having watched 4 matches with Chelsea this season, that defensively it is without question the number 1 thing that needs to be fixed at Chelsea in order for us to start improving and climbing up the table. So I could only have 4 options in this poll, the first of which is Rudiger and Zuma. 24% of people said they'd like to see that away at Wolves. 48% of people want Rudiger and Fikayo Tomori. Tomori had a very decent debut at Chelsea. He was one of the 6 things that we learned in yesterday's video. 48% of people said they wanted to see a Rudiger-Tomori partnership, with 15% saying Tomori and Christensen and Zuma with 13%, and then I asked people, because obviously we didn't have enough options, I said Rudiger and Christensen. 338 people liked that tweet. So if I'm looking at the number of votes, the Rudiger and Christensen partnership is about the same as the Rudiger and Tomori partnership in terms of what people want to see. But I think what we can confirm is that Tomori is definitely preferred to Zuma at this point, and Rudiger as well is the centre-back that everyone is looking forward to seeing come back and hopefully strengthen this blimmin' defence. Got an audience of people behind the camera right now. So the second thing that we spoke about, Louis, Jan and I, outside the stadium was something that we mentioned again yesterday. It was that lack of speed and lack of urgency to get back. I don't know about you, but when I was watching it in the stands, the speed, or lack of speed, should I say, of tracking back when we lose the ball. Kovacic, one time, came back, that beautiful sliding tackle to win it.
Yeah,
that was great. Why is no one else doing that? Jorginho, I thought, was very good today, actually.
Jorginho
From an attacking sense, and the way he distributed the ball again was very good.
Got an assist, apparently, I think.
Did he?
One of the goals, yeah.
What, is that his first one?
For this season.
That's his first one for Chelsea.
Oh, yeah, for Chelsea, possibly.
That's his first. He didn't get any last year, so that might be his first assist for Chelsea.
We're not going to put too many negatives on this point.
No, it was too slow.
Yeah,
way too slow. Yeah. And I didn't see anybody with any urgency to really get back and win the ball on a consistent basis. It just shows how much we rely on N'Golo Kante. 100%. That's what I thought. So obviously in relation to what we were talking about there and what I spoke about yesterday, everyone was a little bit frustrated that I didn't have Ross Barkley in a red box in my 6 things that we learned. And I'll be completely honest, I've seen a lot of people commenting saying that we don't understand why we saw such a promising Ross Barkley in pre-season. Then it comes to actually the bread and butter of what he's actually being paid to do at Chelsea Football Club, playing Premier League games and competitions we actually want to and need to succeed in. And it all just seems to go wrong for Ross Barkley. There was a couple of nice little touches in the middle of the pitch in the game against Sheffield United. I remember that little back heel that Pulisic ended up running onto, or maybe it was Mason Mount, I can't remember who it was. But there were some good moments from Ross Barkley, but they're so few and far between that we never know what player is actually going to turn up for us. And it's got to the point now, and I said this in my preview, Ross Barkley's not got that many games left before Ruben Loftus-Cheek comes back from injury where he can actually prove himself. And I think, quite frankly, he's not done anywhere near enough to prove himself. The amount of times he gave the ball away in the early stages of the game against Sheffield United, and this was in the half of football where we were supposedly the better team. Ross Barkley was disappointing again. He's just far too inconsistent. RHF has commented saying, honestly, it's so depressing to watch Chelsea have such a lacklustre game with slow, comfortable football and then watch Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool and City work their asses off and leave it all on the pitch. It was one of the main points that I made in my 6 things that we learnt video, that lack of urgency is just not good enough.
We needed to do something in that midfield, and I think you looked at the options we had on the bench. We only had Billy Gilmour. He doesn't exactly want to switch into another potential midfield shape. I mean, personally I would have gone maybe 4-4-2 to agree with that, or a diamond, or something, just something to switch it up a little bit. He needed to make that change. And Billy Gilmour, to be fair, he's 18. I don't think it's fair to go straight on and say that was the issue. We shouldn't be doing that. He needed to get minutes at some point, and this is the season to do it. We have a transfer ban. We shouldn't really have any expectations, and you need to see what these players are capable of. Yeah. And obviously, and another positive, it's someone's birthday over there, so that's all well and good. But I think that there's a lot that we need to look at, and I think a lot of people are being very reactionary. Understandably, it's 10 minutes after the game's finished. There's stuff that does need to be spoken about, but we need to just take everything with a pinch of salt, look at it. Billy Gilmour's got some minutes, and we can see what else he can do this season. Maybe not when it's 2-1 up. Maybe that's where
Grimsby
comes in. But but stuff like that, we'll see what happens.
Seeing the game out, yeah. Well, that's 2 positives for you there, mate.
Yeah, that's pretty good, and I'm glad you guys have done them, because for once I actually genuinely want to focus on some of the alarming things that I think were completely unacceptable today from Chelsea. So obviously we backed that point up there with the boys outside of Stamford Bridge. I think at the moment there is periods of the game where Chelsea do have this intense press and we do look good, we're creative, we create opportunities, but it doesn't last long enough. And I think the main thing that we've seen that completely combats to ourselves is the complete inability to actually see the game through, because we're flagging come the 75th, 80th minute, and then we're asking and inviting the pressure back on because we've not killed off the game. Okay, so another thing that got quite a lot of criticism yesterday in the 6 things that we learned video was my criticism of Christian Pulisic. It seems as though people are either fully agreeing with me, saying that my comments on his defensive work rate are valid and that he does need to offer more support for Azpilicueta. Some people have taken the stance where it's like, well, why should he do that? Because, well, Mason Mount doesn't have to do it as much for Emerson, so why should Pulisic have to do it as much for Azpilicueta? That argument for me is completely irrelevant. It's always been a case with Chelsea's wingers. We had it with Eden Hazard, where when he first got to the club, defensively his work rate wasn't good enough. We saw over the years that he went through fluctuations in the amount he got back, the amount he came to win the ball, and towards the end of his Chelsea career he was much better at that. And I think that my criticism of Pulisic was not me scapegoating him for any faults going forward. I think he's been very good going forward. I think he's been very creative. He does make good runs. He's got good movement and he holds the ball well. Made the point that he does need to bulk up physically, which I think is a no-brainer, and I don't think anyone can really argue with that when Azpilicueta clearly isn't the strongest option and outlet in this team, he needs to accept the responsibility that if he's playing on that right-hand side, he does need to come back. It's not a case of, oh, well, Mount doesn't have to do it because Emerson's better. That argument is completely irrelevant. We need to be both working down each flank according to the quality of player you've got available. So we've also got at Candy Loves Chelsea, who is questioning whether or not Zuma is comfortable playing the ball out from the back. The one thing I will say that you cannot fault with Kurt Zouma is the way that he bosses strikers when strikers are putting their backs into him. He's absolutely brilliant at winning those aerial battles, and he is definitely probably the strongest player within that Chelsea dressing room in order to combat these really, really strong Premier League forwards. However, I completely agree with you. When it comes to playing that killer pass, I bring back to David Luiz again. David Luiz used to be able to get us out of sticky situations by sticking the ball 75 yards up the pitch. We're not going to see that with Kurt Zouma. I do feel as though his strengths are definitely ball winning in a defensive tackling sense and actually making the blocks and being able to fend off a striker who's trying to put his back into him. That is what Kurt Zouma is best at. In terms of playing out from the back, Rudiger's better at that. Again, I'm not writing off Kurt Zouma. I don't think he was perfect again against Sheffield United. He certainly wasn't. But the defensive partnership is, I still can't make up my mind myself. I'm not entirely sure what I want to see, but what I will say is I was very impressed with Tomori, and I echo everything you guys have said about him back. There's also Kevin Kelly, who thinks I'm in front of a green screen. I can promise you, I'm not in front of a green screen. This place is just genuinely sick. So yeah, we focused on a few things today. We focused on the return of some players. We focused on the defensive issues, who we think is going to start centre-back against Wolves. That's something you guys have answered on the Twitter polls. If you don't yet follow me on Twitter, link is in the description. I'm going to leave you with Louis Beneventi's, well, let's just call it the best optimism I've ever heard after a Chelsea match that ended in such a frail way, you could say, against Sheffield United. Here's Louis Beneventi talking about Woolworth's Pick and Mix.
And I was literally having a conversation on the train up about, I was picking up grey hairs when I got out of the shower this morning, and
Mate, you're 21.
and I was talking about Woolies Pick and Mix, and then Billy Gilmore came on the
Woolies
pitch.
Pick and Mix.
We had a conversation about Woolies, and we were sat there going, oh my god, I saw him come on, I was like, he's literally talking about Woolies. He was 5 when the last one shut. This is a reality check. We're old.
Wait,
We are.
wait. I'm in the middle here, remember?
Yeah, Jan's 42 for anyone who wanted to know. So after that, I think it's a perfect time to wrap up this video. Thank you guys for watching. As always, thank you for all of your input. Obviously, I can't put everyone's comment up on the screen. I can't react to everybody's comment. It's too difficult to make a video that you guys will actually sit through all the way to the end if I am to make these like 50 minutes long. If you do want to see like a longer kind of video, at the moment my videos are between like 10 and 15 minutes. If you do want to see something a little bit longer, like maybe a weekly Q&A, something like that, then be sure to leave a like on this video and let me know in the comments if that is something you'd like to see. And as well as that, I've also got my Patreon set up now. The link to that is in the description. If you want to get involved, great. If you don't, no worries whatsoever. I'm still going to be posting new videos every single day, even over the international break. I'm sorry if it looks like I've not slept properly. It's just the sun has been directly in my face throughout the entirety of this video, so it's quite difficult for me to keep my eyes open. The guy's just been pointing on me as he goes past on his bike. He's probably going to fall off. No, he's actually a pretty good rider. Everyone's good at riding bikes in Amsterdam. Anyway, I will catch you all later. See you in a bit.